Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This video is about classification of tumors and differences between benign and malignant tumors. These are the references for this video. So at the end of this lecture, the first year MBBS student should be able to describe classification of the tumors and to differentiate between benign and malignant tumors. There are many terms used for the swelling that are mass, growth or tumor, but there is a little information about the biologic behavior of the growth of the lesion in these terms. The person having this lesion is concerned about what happened to him and what is going to happen, while physician is also concerned about the course of this swelling, and the physician is also expected to predict the course of the lesion and to decide about the treatment plan and to adopt a suitable treatment modality for the patient. The distinction is made by categorization of the lesion on the basis of some morphological, such as on the basis of gross appearance or basis of the appearance under the microscope, that is called histopathological feature. Also their rate of the growth, which will determine the biological behavior of the lesion. But individually these characteristics are not a reliable indicator of the life expectancy, as if a benign lesion such as brainstem glioma is located near a vital organ, the brainstem, where the various vital centers are present, it will lead to bad prognosis and poor life expectancy. But sometimes the malignant tumor are present superficially and can easily be excised, and cure rate or prognosis is very good. So if you get this problem that a 52 years old female present to you with 25 pound weight loss during preceding 3 months, she had experienced increasing difficulty in swallowing first solid and then semi-solid food. She has a history of consuming spicy foods too. So now you have to approach this patient, and to solve this problem you have to consider many things. You have to see the lesion both by naked eye, which is termed as gross appearance. You have to examine that tissue under the microscope. You have to see the tissue at the molecular level to look for any genetic mutation which result in the change. But don't this sentence from the Robbins is very important. One may get so close to a tree that he loses sight of the forest. So you have to deal with the disease, the patient in toto. Don't go just for the mitosis, don't go just for the necrosis, don't go just for a rapidly growing growth, don't go just for an abnormal histologic feature. You have to deal and take under consideration many parameters to solve this quiz. Neoplasia is a term which is composed of two words, the neo and plasma. The neo means new and plasma is thing formed. So a new thing formed is neoplasia, while tumor stands for swelling, and the Hippocrates, he described the tumor as carcinose. This carcinose subsequently changed to cancer or carcinoma. The neoplasms are derived from cells that normally can multiply, and mature neuron and cardiac myocyte, as they have got limited regenerative capacity or multiplication capacity, they do not give rise to tumor. A tumor may mimic its tissue of origin to a variable degree, such as it loosely resemble to their parent structure, such as happens in hepatic adenoma, where the glandular structure or the adenomatous structure is loosely resemble to the normal hepatic tissue, while some other tumors, they seems to be collection of cells that are so primitive that the tumor's origin cannot be identified. Here in the lower part of this photograph, you can see that there is a gray white structure, a growth that is present within the bowel wall, and this presence of this growth is obstructing the lumen. The area above this growth is dilated, while the area distal to this growth is normal. To classify neoplasm, a suffix "oma" is usually used. This "oma" is the suffix, and examples are adenoma, osteoma, and chondroma for benign tumors, while for malignant tumor, the squamous cell carcinoma, adenocarcinoma, these terms are used. There are some omas which are which have this suffix "oma", but they are not benign or innocent, and examples of these omas are melanomas, lymphomas, mesotheliomas, and seminomas. Choristoma is a term. Both this choristoma and hematoma are interesting terms, and this choristoma is basically a heterotopia in which there is presence of tiny aggregates of normal tissue component in aberrant locations, such as the pancreatic rest is present within the wall of GIT, or adrenal tissue is present in the renal cortex, while the hematoma is focal benign overgrowth of one or more mature cellular elements of a normal tissue. Often they are arranged irregularly. Carcinoma is the malignant tumor of epithelial origin, while sarcomas are the malignant tumors of mesenchymal origin. The carcinoma is adenocarcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma. The malignant tumor, both sarcomas and carcinomas are malignant, and these sarcoma, osteosarcoma, for example, while these leukemias, they are the malignancies of blood cells, especially the WBCs. Some of the tumors are named after the scientist who described these lesions, such as Hodgkin disease or Hodgkin lymphoma, or even sarcoma. Hodgkin lymphoma is the malignant tumor of lymphocytes, while the Ewing sarcoma is a malignant tumor within the bone. When we classify tumor, we can broadly classify these into the tumor composed of one parenchymal cell type, tumor composed of more than one neoplastic cell type, mixed tumor, and usually these are derived from one germ cell. And then tumors which are arising from more than one neoplastic cell type and derived from more than one germ cell layer. These are termed as teratogenous. The tumors that arise from the mesenchymal origin can be connective tissue and derivative, arise from the vessels and surface covering, the tumors arising from the blood cells and related cells, tumor arising from the muscle, and each tumor is named after the cell of origin or tissue of origin or exhibit the pattern similar to that tissue, such as fibroma, that is a benign one, and fibrosarcoma, that is a malignant entity, or lipoma or liposarcoma, though both the benign and malignant partner of this adipocyte. Basically, these mesenchymal cells, these cell tumor, they arise from the mesenchymal stem cell and exhibit differentiation towards one specific cell type. Hence, they are named or termed according to the structure or according to their morphology. Then vessel and surface covering tumors, the tumors arising from the blood vessels are named as hemangioma and angiosarcoma, while lymph vessels tumors are termed as lymphangioma and lymphangiosarcoma. The mesothelial benign tumors are benign fibrous tumor, while malignant tumor is mesothelioma. The tumors arising from the covering of the brain is meningioma, while the malignant counterpart is invasive meningioma. The blood cell and related cell tumors are leukemia. There is no benign entity in these, and the tumors arising from lymphoid tissues are lymphoma. Then muscle tumor, the tumor that arise from the smooth muscles are leiomyoma and leiomyosarcoma. One is benign, the leiomyoma is benign, and sarcoma is malignant one. And the striated muscle tumor are rhabdomyoma and rhabdomyosarcoma. The tumor arising from the epithelium are carcinomas. If they arise from the stratified squamous epithelium, they are named as squamous cell papilloma if benign and squamous cell carcinoma if malignant. The malignant tumor arising from the basal cell of the skin or adnexa are termed as basal cell carcinoma. The tumor arising from the epithelium and they exhibit glandular pattern or gland-like structure, they are termed as adenoma, papilloma or cystadenoma when benign, and adenocarcinoma, papillary carcinoma and cystadenocarcinoma for the malignant one. Adenoma is just the formation of glandular structure while they are forming the papillary or finger-like projections. They are termed as papilloma. The cystadenoma is term that is used when these glandular pattern is forming a cyst also. The tumor from the respiratory passages are bronchial adenoma and bronchogenic carcinoma. Similarly, the renal epithelial tumor are renal tubular adenomas and renal cellular carcinoma. The liver cell benign tumor is hepatic adenoma, and malignant counterpart is hepatoma or hepatocellular carcinoma. The tumor arises from the transitional epithelium of the urinary tract or transitional cell papilloma when benign and transitional cell carcinoma when malignant. The benign tumor from the placental epithelium are hydatidform mole, while choriocarcinoma is the malignant tumor of the placental epithelium. The testicular epithelium or germ cell epithelial tumors are mostly malignant. There is no benign entity, and these malignant tumors are seminomas and embryonal carcinomas. There are many more, but important one are seminoma and embryonal carcinoma. The tumor of melanocyte when benign are termed as nevi, while the malignant tumor of the melanocyte is malignant melanoma. There are some tumors that arise from more than one neoplastic cell types. These are the mixed tumor, but these mixed tumors are derived from one germ cells. These are salivary gland tumors such as pleomorphic adenoma or mixed tumor of the salivary gland, and the malignant counterpart is termed as malignant mixed tumor of salivary gland origin. The malignant tumor which arises from the renal anlaga are Wilms tumor. The tumor that arise from more than one neoplastic cell type, which is derived from more than one germ cell layer, are termed as teratogenous tumor, and they arise from the totipotential cells in the gonads or in embryonic crest. The benign entity of these tumors is mature teratoma or dermoid cyst, while the malignant counterpart is immature teratoma and teratocarcinoma. Now, one characteristic of the tumor is the differentiation and anaplasia. The differentiation is the term which describes the extent to which neoplastic parenchymal cell resemble the corresponding normal parenchymal cell, both morphologically and functionally, while anaplasia is lack of differentiation. So this is a leiomyoma of the uterus, the benign tumor of the smooth muscle. This benign, well-differentiated tumor, it is composed of interlacing bundles of neoplastic smooth muscle cells that are almost identical in appearance to the normal smooth muscles in the myometrium. Okay, so they are well differentiated, and this photomicrograph is showing the adenoma, that is benign tumor of the thyroid, and these thyroid follicles are all normal looking and they are filled with colloid. This is another photomicrograph which is of malignant tumor, and this is adenocarcinoma from the colon. The cancerous glands are irregular both in size and shape, and they are not looking like normal colonic gland, and although these are considered differentiated because the gland formation is seen, there is gland within gland formation is also seen, and these glands are not confined to the upper layer of the wall of the gut or the colon. These in fact have invaded the muscular layer of the colon. So their behavior is determined by their local infiltration or invasion, And this is another photomicrograph. This is the histopathological appearance of well differentiated squamous cell carcinoma of the skin. The tumor cells are similar to the normal squamous epithelium, and there is presence of these intercellular bridges, and keratin pearl formation is also evident in this photomicrograph. In this photomicrograph, the tissue has lost its differentiation. It is neither forming any glandular pattern nor any gland, or it is not resembling with any of the body tissue. There is cellular atypia, and the size, both the cellular and nuclear, varies. Also, the shape also differs. This black arrow is pointing toward a tripolar mitosis. So, continuing the differentiation and anaplasia, this is a histological picture of a photomicrograph of a normal cartilage. In this photomicrograph, this cartilage is showing closely packed chondrocyte. Still, they are not showing any major anaplastic change, just closely packed cells. And then now this tumor, which is rightmost, it is composed of chondrocytes which are showing abnormal shape, irregular hyperchromatic nuclei. There is cartilaginous matrix, and it is going towards anaplasia or de-differentiation. It is not as normal to the right or middle picture. It is more closely packed, more deeply stained nuclei, more abnormal cells, more abnormality within the nucleus and in the cytoplasm. So we have got two extremes. One is closely resembling to the normal tissue, and another has lost its normal appearance. The one close to the normal tissue appearance is well differentiated, and one that has lost all its normal characteristic, is poorly differentiated or anaplastic, while the one in between these two, loosely termed as moderately differentiated, which has got some resemblance to the normal tissue, but still you can judge, or you can say that the tissue of origin is that particular tissue. Okay, so there is well differentiated, moderately differentiated and poorly differentiated entity of these tumors. So anaplasia is a term which means to form backward. It is basically the reversal of differentiation toward a more primitive level. There is lack of differentiation, and this is hallmark of malignancy, although it should be associated with other features, as we have seen earlier statement that one should not get so close to a tree that one loses the sight of the forest. So the pleomorphism is one of the feature of anaplasia. This pleomorphism is variation in size and shape, and the cells in the same tumor are not uniform. There can be small cells with an undifferentiated appearance, or there can be presence of tumor giant cells, especially the anaplastic one. Then there is a single huge polymorphic nucleus, two or more large hyperchromatic nuclei, or these should be differentiated from inflammatory Langerhans or foreign body type giant cells which are derived by macrophages. Another important feature of anaplasia is abnormal nuclear morphology. The nuclei are disproportionately large for the cell, and the nuclear to cytoplasm ratio may become 1:1, which is normally 1:4 to 1:6. Then the nuclear shape can be variable, irregular. It is hyperchromatic, means it is taking more stain. The chromatin coarsely clumped and distributed along the nuclear membrane, or more darkly stained than normal. And there can be abnormally large nucleoli which is present in the nucleus. So pleomorphism is a feature of this anaplasia, and this photomicrograph is showing rhabdomyosarcoma, that is the malignant tumor of skeletal muscle. On the right, this black arrow is pointing toward a giant cell, while the individual cells, the malignant cells, are showing that there is marked cellular and nuclear pleomorphism and hyperchromasia. This is another photomicrograph which is showing the loss of differentiation, and this is an anaplastic tumor which is exhibiting highly pleomorphic cells. These are not uniform both in size and shape. The nuclei are hyperchromatic, and these nuclei are large as compared to the cytoplasm. This black arrow is pointed towards a multinucleated tumor giant cell. Mitosis is another feature of anaplasia. These mitoses are unlikely in benign tumors and in well-differentiated malignant neoplasms, while they are present frequently in undifferentiated tumors. They actually reflective of high proliferative activity of the parenchymal cells that indicate rapid cell growth. The presence of mitosis, however, does not necessarily indicate that a tumor is malignant or that the tissue is neoplastic. The hallmark in the anaplastic tumor is presence of atypical, bizarre mitotic figure, sometimes with tripolar, quadripolar or multipolar mitotic spindles, as we have just seen. So the mitosis is a feature of this undifferentiation, and this photomicrograph of the undifferentiated tumor or anaplastic tumor is showing tripolar mitosis in the center, and this is a multipolar spindle of mitosis in an anaplastic tumor. In the background, the tumor cells are pleomorphic. Loss of polarity is another feature of anaplasia. the orientation of anaplastic cell is markedly disturbed, the epithelial cells tend to arrange themselves in a regular fashion and they rest on a basement membrane. Underlying the basement membrane is the supportive tissue, the fibroblast and the ground substance. What happens in anaplasia? The large masses of the tumor cells, they grow in an anarchic, disorganized fashion. They grow in each direction, or they can invade the basement membrane and go outside. They can infiltrate locally and distally also. The presence of necrosis is another feature of anaplasia. This is due to insufficient blood supply to the stroma, and due to the insufficient blood supply, the rapidly growing malignant tumor cells, they develop large central areas of ischemic necrosis. So this necrosis is another feature of anaplasia. Loss of function of the cell is also associated with anaplasia. The more differentiated a lesion, it is more capable to perform normal function, such as there is formation or release of detectable hormones by the endocrine tumors, formation of keratin by well-differentiated squamous cell carcinoma, and formation of bile by well-differentiated hepatocellular carcinoma. Anaplastic cells lose their function and they are not able to form the hormone or the material which is normally produced by the cell. The paraneoplastic syndrome is a special condition in which the tumor cells, they start to produce the protein or the material that is not characteristically secreted by that site, as happened in bronchogenic carcinoma, in which corticotropin or parathyroid hormone like protein, insulin or glucagon or other hormones are secreted by these tumors. Although dedifferentiation of tissue is a general criteria for malignancy, but it must be used cautiously in specific cases. This photomicrograph is of nodular fasciitis, that is a reactive proliferation of the connective tissue cells, and these reactive proliferation, that these nodular fasciitis usually occurs in the fourth and fifth finger and result in flexion of the fourth and fifth finger due to formation of a nodule in the aponeurosis, and it may regress or progress sometimes, but it should not be diagnosed as fibrosarcoma despite the presence of this marked pleomorphism, and it is a locally infiltrative lesion, but it does not metastasize. So to summarize, we can say that the cells in benign tumors are almost always well differentiated and resemble their normal cell of origin. The cells in cancers are more or less differentiated, but some derangement of the differentiation is always present. This illustration is summarizing all the features of anaplasia. As compared to the normal morphology, The anaplastic cell or cancer cell, they exhibit loss of basal polarity of this cell, and the nucleus, they also show pleomorphism, both the cellular and nuclear pleomorphism. The nuclear to cytoplasmic ratio is high. It may become 1:1. There is anisonucleosis. The nuclei are hyperchromatic with prominent nucleoli. The mitotic figures are abnormal, as we have seen some pictures of these abnormal mitosis. Then it may contain tumor giant cell. If it is a mucin producing area, the production of mucin is increased, and the anaplastic tumors are associated with DNA aneuploidy. Now, the concept of metaplasia and dysplasia. The metaplasia is the replacement of one type of the cell with another type, and it is associated with persistent or repeated tissue damage, repair and regeneration. Often the replacing cell type is better suited to some alteration in that particular local environment, such as the gastroesophageal reflex damages the squamous epithelium of the esophagus, leading to its replacement by glandular, both the gastric or intestinal epithelial, and this epithelium is more suited to an acidic environment. This condition is also termed as Barrett's esophagus. The term dysplasia is used to describe disordered growth. It is encountered principally in epithelia and characterized by loss in the uniformity of the individual cell and loss in the architectural orientation. There is pleomorphism, hyperchromasia of the nuclei, a large nuclear to cytoplasmic ratio, disorderly architecture, and mitotic figures are more abundant. Going further into the dysplasia, when this dysplasia affects the full thickness of the epithelium, but it does not penetrate the basement membrane on which this epithelium is resting, it is termed as carcinoma in situ. There are all the features of anaplasia, or there is abnormal size, pleomorphism, hyperchromasia, altered nucleus to cytoplasmic ratio. There is presence of abnormal mitosis, okay, and all these changes are confined above the basement membrane. There is no invasion of the basement membrane. This entity is termed as carcinoma in situ, and it is reserved mostly, exclusively in fact, for epithelial tumors. Schema is showing the development of invasive carcinoma as a result of chronic irritation or inciting a stimulus to the carcinogenesis. First, there can be hyperplasia of that epithelium, which can change its type, which is more suitable for that particular environment, that is termed as metaplasia, and then this may show dysplastic changes. So dysplastic changes are termed as dysplasia, there is cellular and nuclear polymorphism, hyperchromasia, loss of polarity, abnormal mitosis, and affecting some area of the epithelium when there is hyperkeratosis, parakeratosis, dyskeratosis, or finally full thickness involvement of the epithelium, that is carcinoma in situ, and development of invasive carcinoma. All these events have got or gathered some genetic changes which result in the characteristic morphology. All benign tumors grow as cohesive expanding masses and they stay localized to that particular site. These benign tumors do not invade locally or metastasize to distant organ. Hence, they do not metastasize. While the malignant tumor have tendency to invade and destroy local tissue and they metastasize readily, the benign tumor grow and expand slowly. So this expansion, slow expansion, forms a rim of compressed fibrous tissue around the expanding tumor that is termed as capsule, and this capsule consists largely of the extracellular matrix that is deposited by stromal cells, that is fibroblast. These fibroblasts are activated by hypoxic damage that results from the pressure of the expanding tumor. The capsule, however, it doesn't prevent tumor growth and it creates a tissue plane that makes the tumor discrete, readily palpable, movable, and easily accessible by surgical enucleation. The exception to this phenomenon is hemangioma, which is a benign tumor of blood vessel. These are often unencapsulated and they infiltrate into the local tissue. This feature of the hemangioma, which occur commonly in the dermis and in the liver, make them unresectable. The malignant tumor have got tendency to progressively infiltrate, invade, and destroy the surrounding tissue, as well as they have got the tendency to go beyond the localized limits. They are poorly demarcated and cleavage plane that is characteristic of the benign tumor, most of the benign tumor, is lacking in the malignant tumors. There is a phenomenon of pseudo-encapsulation in which the slowly expanding malignant tumors may develop an apparently enclosing fibrous capsule and may push along a broad front into adjacent normal structure and form a pseudo cleavage plane. But there is histological evidence of invasion. So this invasiveness is the most reliable feature that differentiate cancers or malignant tumors from benign tumors. This is the gross picture of a fibroadenoma of the breast. The encircled area is a tan-colored encapsulated small tumor that is sharply delineated from the whiter breast tissue. The tissue grossly, the tissue consistency is rubbery. This is another lesion from the breast, and this breast lesion is showing that the gray white area that is present in this breast tissue, that is encircled by the breast tissue, is not well demarcated. It is hard in consistency and it is having various indentation, various digits are infiltrating into the local tissue. This is the gross picture of squamous cell carcinoma that is present on the lateral border of the tongue, and in advanced stages it is associated with ulcerated and protruding masses, and these have got irregular borders and rolled out indurated borders. This photomicrograph is from the fibroadenoma of the breast. The red arrow is pointing toward a fibrous capsule which is formed by slowly growing fibroadenoma, and this capsule is limiting the tumor tissue from the surrounding tissue. This is another photomicrograph which is showing an invasive ductal carcinoma of the breast. The borders here are irregular and they are infiltrating into the surrounding tissue. There is no capsule and the stromal reaction is intense in the tissue surrounding this tumor. Metastasis is another feature of malignancy, and it is the spread of the tumor to the site that are physically discontinuous with the primary tumor. This characteristic unequally marks a tumor as malignant. So invasiveness or metastasis of the tumor mark this tumor as a malignant tumor. The tumor may spread through blood vessels, lymphatic, or it may seed body cavity. Almost all malignant tumors can metastasize, but basal cell carcinoma of the skin and gliomas they do not metastasize. The invasion is the direct extension and penetration by the cancer cell into the neighboring tissue, while metastasis is the spread of cancer cells through the circulatory or lymphatic system to the more distant location. This illustration is describing the concept of invasion and metastasis. In the topmost picture, the number 1, the tumor, the malignant tumor which has got invasiveness, characteristic of invasiveness is infiltrating and invading locally, and it is destroying the tissue and also affecting the blood vessel. So these tumor cells through the vessel, they are transported to the distant sites, and the cancer cell then re-invade and they grow at a new location. This is the metastasis. One can predict the likelihood for metastasis by certain parameters. These are lack of differentiation, aggressive local invasion, rapid growth, and large size of the growth. All these factors, all these parameters determine the likelihood for metastasis, but sometimes the small, well differentiated, slowly growing lesion, they metastasize widely, and conversely some rapidly growing large lesions remain localized for years. And many factors, both some related with the invader and some related with the host, are involved in the likelihood for the metastasis. Metastasis is an important characteristic. About 30% of newly diagnosed solid tumor present with the metastasis at the time of presentation. The presence of metastasis is associated with bad prognosis, and Many tumors destined to kill patient have already spread at the time of initial diagnosis. The leukemia and lymphoma, which are sometimes termed as liquid malignancies, they are always considered as malignant as they are disseminated at the time of diagnosis. So the pathway of spread are direct seeding of the body cavities or body surfaces. It can disseminate through lymphatic spread or through hematogenous spread. There are some rare cases of iatrogenic spread of the tumor cell on surgical instrumentation, such as occur very rarely in testicular biopsies. The tumor spreads from its site of the origin to the distant site of the metastasis through various steps, and first is the aggressive clone formation with angiogenesis, the loosening of the tumor cell, then there is the interaction of the tumor cell and the extracellular matrix and degradation of the extracellular matrix. Then this tumor cell enter into the vascular lumen and a thrombus is formed that is stabilized over there, and finally the tumor thrombus detaches from there, or it extravasates from the site to the outside. In the subsequent section we are going to see the details of all of these features. The first step is the presence of aggressive clone within the tumor, which is associated with angiogenesis, and this angiogenesis is the new blood vessel formation. These new blood vessels, which are formed within the tumor substance, are in direct contact with the stromal cells, and also there is loosening of some tumor cells due to loss of E-cadherin and other cell adhesion molecules. Loose cells has receptor for laminin and fibronectin and binds with them. There is loss of integrin and other transmembrane receptors that will further favor metastasis. The tumor cells, they express proteases and matrix metalloproteases, including gelatinases and collagenases, and the inhibitors of these matrix metalloproteinases are decreased. All these factors will favor the degradation of the extracellular matrix, and another protein, that is cathepsin D expression, is also increased in some tumors. These dissolve extracellular matrix. First, there is dissolution of the basement membrane of the tumor, then the interstitial matrix or extracellular matrix, and finally the wall of the blood vessel is degraded or dissolved. The tumor cell derived autocrine motility factor stimulates receptor mediated motility of the tumor cells. There is formation of cleavage product of extracellular matrix, and these cleavage product have got chemotactic characteristic for tumor cells. Also they promote the growth of the tumor cells and promote angiogenesis. So these tumor cells breach the basement membrane of the vessel, and these are covered by constituents of the blood and form a thrombus within the vessel wall. And the thrombus formation nourishes the tumor cells and protect these tumor cells by immune attack of the host. Large number of tumor cells released into the circulation, and in fact they are attacked by the host immune cells. Only less than 0.1% of the tumor cells survive to develop metastasis. The tumor cells may extravasate from these vessels to the surrounding tissue, and there they survive by the release of platelet-derived growth factor, fibroblast growth factor, transforming growth factor beta, and vascular endothelial growth factor, which is derived from the tumor cells, and these factors are responsible for the survival and growth of the tumor cell in that environment. The tumor metastatic deposit may further metastasize to other organ or toward the same organ. Within this organ they can form multiple foci, or it can form an embolus, and these emboli can go towards other organ and metastasis further disseminates. Seeding of body cavities and surfaces is another mechanism of the metastasis besides the lymphatic and vascular spread. Seeding of the body cavities and surfaces may occur whenever a malignant neoplasm penetrates into a natural open field that lacks physical barrier, such as peritoneal cavity, pleural space, pericardial cavity, subarachnoid space, and joint spaces. The characteristic of ovarian carcinoma is pseudomyxoma peritonei, which is a gelatinous neoplastic mass that fills the peritoneal cavity, and this is due to mucus secreting carcinoma of the appendix or ovary. This gross picture of peritoneal carcinomatosis is showing that the mesentery that is attached to a loop of a small bowel is having numerous small nodules of metastatic ovarian carcinoma. This is the gross picture of the omentum that is showing that this omentum is having multiple nodules, and these nodules are due to metastatic ovarian carcinoma. So this is omental seeding secondary to metastatic ovarian carcinoma. This photomicrograph is showing that the pericolonic adipose tissue is invaded by the colon carcinoma. These malignant foci that are marked by this red arrow are not normally seen within the peritoneum, but here this adipose tissue is showing the abnormal tissue, that is the malignant tissue that is seeding this peritoneal space. So lymphatic spread is another pathway of the spread, and it is the most common route of dissemination for the carcinomas, that is the tumor of epithelial origin. While sarcomas may also use this route, there is no functional lymphatic by the tumor, so these do not contain any lymphatic channels. So the tumor dissemination by the lymphatic majorly and exclusively occurs by the lymphatic vessels that are located at the tumor margins. The pattern of the lymph node involvement follows the natural route of the lymphatic drainage. For example, in breast carcinoma, the common location of the tumor is upper and outer quadrant, so it goes to the axillary lymph node first, and the inner quadrant tumor first go to the internal memory chain of the lymphatics. From there they affect the infraclavicular and then the supraclavicular lymph nodes. Similarly, the lung carcinoma take the route of perihilar tracheobronchial and then the mediastinal lymph nodes. The sentinel lymph node is the first regional lymph node that receives the tumor. This mapping is usually done by the injection of radio-labeled tracer or by the colored dye. The immune response to the tumor cell may result in the enlargement of the lymph node. So enlarged lymph node do not always mean that it has got metastasis. Metastasis should always be confirmed or assessed by microscopy. Another phenomenon, another concept is of skip metastasis, when the tumor cell are not found in the or not following the normal route of the lymph node, as is evident from this picture. If the tumor is not affecting the first draining lymph node, but it is present in a distant site, so the normal lymph node which was affected is skipped and it is present in another lymph node. This concept is skip metastasis. The lymph nodes which have got the metastasis may be enlarged to many times of their normal size, and this may often exceed the diameter of the primary lesion. This photograph is the gross picture of a metastatic carcinoma, and there is involvement of peri-aortic lymph nodes, and this lymph node is divided into two, and this gray-white structure is showing the metastasis of the tumor to this area. This is the photomicrograph of an axillary lymph node, which is showing the presence of metastatic breast carcinoma. There are aggregates of the tumor cells within the substance of the lymph node and also within the dilated lymphoid channels. The upper part in this photomicrograph is of normal lymph node. The hematogenous spread is typical of sarcomas, however it is seen in carcinomas also. The arteries are thick walled and they are less readily penetrated than veins. The arterial spread may occur when tumor cell pass through the pulmonary capillary bed or pulmonary arteriovenous shunt, or pulmonary metastasis themselves gives rise to additional tumor emboli, while the venous metastasis, it affects readily lung and the liver, which are the most frequent sites of the metastasis through the hematogenous route, and the thyroid and prostate CA, they tend to metastasize through paravertebral plexus, and through these paravertebral plexus they go to vertebral column. And renal cell carcinoma, they frequently invade through the branches of the renal vein. Through this hematogenous spread, the breast cancer goes to bone, bronchogenic carcinoma to the adrenals and brain, and neuroblastoma to liver and bone. The skeletal muscle and spleen, however, they have got an increased fraction of the cardiac output and they have a large vascular bed. They are rarely the site of secondary deposits. This photomicrograph is showing the hematogenous spread of the tumor. The red arrow is pointing towards a tumor mass that has invaded and penetrated the wall of the small vein, and this is now present within the small vein. The surrounding adipose tissue, especially in the lower part, is showing a focus of the same malignant tumor. This is the gross picture of a liver, and this is showing round to oval or irregular foci of these gray-white tissue. This is basically the metastatic tumor which is present in the liver. The photomicrograph is showing a lung metastasis, and there is presence of this tumor within the lung substance, lung tissue, and this tumor is adenocarcinoma, which was later diagnosed as arising from the colon. So through the hematogenous spread, some tumors go to liver, lung, brain, bone, and some tumor into the kidney and adrenal gland. And we have earlier seen that there is some favorism for the tumor by some organs of the body. This led to the concept of organ tropism. The organ tropism of metastasis was described by Paget in 1889, who stated that tumor-associated stromal cells in fact plough the road for the tumor spread to a particular site. The spread of the tumor cell to a specific secondary site depends on compatibility between the tumor cell and the favorable microenvironmental factor in the secondary site, which this concept can be stated as the seed and soil theory of organ tropism for metastasis. As we have seen earlier that breast cancer, prostate and thyroid, they metastasize to the bone, and this bone is in fact a favored soil for this tumor. Oppositely, the large size of this spleen and muscle with abundant blood flow are not a favored soil for the tumor. Hence, organs these sites do not contain any metastasis usually, and this will be further elaborated in the molecular basis of the cancer. So in short, the characteristics of the benign and malignant tumors can be compared on the basis of differentiation and anaplasia, the rate of the growth, local invasion and metastasis. The benign tumors are well differentiated and the structures are sometimes and usually they are typical of the tissue of origin, while the malignant lack differentiation and hence they are anaplastic and the structures are often atypical. The rate of the growth in benign tumors is slow and these tumors are progressive and they may come to a standstill or regress. Mitotic figures are rare or normal, while the malignant tumors rate of the growth is erratic. They may be slow to rapid in growth, but mitotic figures are numerous and abnormal. The benign tumors usually cohesive, expansile, well demarcated masses and do not invade or infiltrate into the surrounding normal tissue, but the malignant tumor are locally invasive, infiltrative and into the surrounding tissue, and they sometimes may be cohesive and expansile, while the malignant the other characteristic to differentiate between these benign and malignant tumor is the metastasis. In the benign tumor, metastasis is absent, while it is a feature of malignant tumor. This illustration is an example of leiomyoma and leiomyosarcoma, which are the benign and malignant tumor of the smooth muscle respectively, and they are showing the differences among the benign and malignant tumors. The leiomyoma, which is the benign tumor of the smooth muscle, usually affect and it is the most common tumor of the female and most common benign tumor of the female. It affects uterus, and this benign tumor is small, well demarcated. It is a slowly growing tumor with non-invasive and non-metastatic characteristic, and histologically it is well differentiated, closely resembled to the normal smooth muscle. On gross appearance, the leiomyoma, they show grey-white, smooth, shiny appearance with whirling features, while the malignant counterpart of the A smooth muscle tumor, these are termed as leiomyosarcoma. These tumors are large, locally invasive, they are poorly demarcated, they grow rapidly with areas of hemorrhage and necrosis grossly and microscopically. They are poorly differentiated and they readily metastasize.